Patrick Arnold went to St. Mary's College where he learned the art of pan tuning in the panyards of Woodbrook, like the Invaders panyard and so on. So he came back to Tobago with the skill of pan tuning, making pans. And that skill of pan tuning, pan maker, allowed him to give birth to a number of steel bands in Tobago. All Stars, Tobago All Stars, Central Symphony, and even the recent Uptown Fascinators, they got pans from Patrick Arnold to form their steel bands. There's no doubt that he must be classified and rated as the greatest innovator and pan maker ever in Tobago. It is my view, looking back on his time on this planet, that that was his role, to create pan, to play pan music.
Just one of the many tributes and reflections that have been pouring in since the steel pan fraternity was rocked by the passing of Patrick Arnold. And this morning we are paying tribute to him, as Roka said, and joining us this morning via Zoom we have Amelia Guillaume, manager of Our Boys Steel Orchestra, and Renison Pekikwashi, cultural analyst and former teacher and steel band administrator. Good morning to both of you and welcome to the show.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for having us.
It's a pleasure to have both of you with us this morning on the show. I know that obviously the past few weeks have been so challenging, and it definitely is a blessing to be able to have you on, just to have a bit of a discussion about the tributes and also how he has affected, or did affect rather, the pan fraternity and of course impacted lives. Amelia, if we can, I would love to start with you, given the fact that you are the manager of Our Boys. Tell us a little bit about how he impacted the steel band and what you've seen as a result of that.
Okay, Mr. Arnold, I must say he was a visionary. He believed that it's not about just playing pan, it's an art and it's a skill that anyone who gets involved should embark on and excel in it. I started with Our Boys at the age of 11. And at that point in time, there were a lot of students coming in there from school. And in the afternoon, he made sure that place was a haven for us. We came to learn, we came to have fun, we came to be a part of a family. And the direction he wanted us to go is to grow in the art form and to be able to fall in line as managers, do events. And here we are about 30-something years later, and I am sitting as the manager of Our Boys. I would have been a junior captain for the band at one point in time. So to us, Mr. Arnold was like a father. He was a hero because he believed in us, and he would ensure that we had everything in place to be able to excel and to feel passionate about the instrument.
That's beautiful to hear. Thank you for sharing that personal experience as well. Now, Renison, if we could go to you for a moment as a cultural analyst, how would you assess Patrick Arnold's contribution to the steel pan fraternity and to the culture in general?
Well, first of all, let me say good morning to you, and thank you for having me on. Mr. Arnold, from my interaction with him, which of course started formally in 1991, 1992. All right, he was more than just steel pan. You know, I don't want to limit him to that sphere of cultural influence. Remember, he was also the chairman of the Tobago Festivals Commission from 1999, I think, to 2001. So when you're talking about a person like that, you're talking about someone who would have had the command of all the cultural art forms on the island to manage, to produce, and to more or less hone so that there'll be a transition from one generation to the other. Steel pan was his medium of, was his transportation, was the means through which he was able to move the culture on the island and, of course, got into the national conversation space and was able to impact, right? So Mr. Arnold, to me, was a cultural revolutionary. You know, when you could find somebody who will give up a teaching job, give up a job as a community liaison officer, an assistant director of the Monks in George Youth Camp, an employee of the CWDA, which is now WASA, right? As governance senator. When you find somebody could relinquish those responsibilities and the jobs so as just to focus singularly on the steel pan, then if you start understanding this, then we can now fathom the man who was Patrick Arnold. His life was exclusively steel pan. All right, so in my assessment of him, in my judgment of him, he was beyond pan and sought to use pan as the platform, as the medium, as the idiom of cultural growth in Trinidad, Tobago, and if you ask me further, I would have impacted the world.
Perfectly said. Yeah. Perfectly said. Thank you so much for that. And perfect lead-in to this clip on the legacy of Mr. Patrick Arnold.
He has left a lot. He was innovative. So, for example, there was a time when steel band players got, I think it was $50 for playing for Panorama. Now I think the amount he pressed for it, the amount is about $1,000 for each player. There was also a small prize for the winning band in Panorama, and he pushed for it to be, I think it's $1 million now for the winning band. He also started the judging in panyards, because one of the things I think he was looking at is that the cost of transporting bands to one central point was exorbitant. And so he felt that we could judge the band in the panyards, which would give the community a chance to hear them, perform on the night of the competition, right? So this was his idea. So the judging of the panyard, which goes on till now, one of the major things he implemented.
Absolutely amazing. We're, of course, in discussion with a tribute to Patrick Arnold. Joining us this morning on the Now Morning Show, we have two incredible individuals whose lives have definitely been impacted. And if we can, for a moment, Amelia, I would love to come back to you, and then Renison, if you could share your contribution when just sharing a bit about what leadership traits you may have noticed in Mr. Arnold that you have been able to, I dare say, effectively implement in your life that have made changes, not just to steel pan, but to our culture in general.
Mr. Arnold was not afraid to be different. He was a proud Tobagonian, I must say, and he ensured that Tobago was included in all aspects. And so for me, I would say, be proud of who you are. I learned that from him. And don't be afraid to be different. Don't be afraid to make decisions that will be uncomfortable for some. Don't be afraid, to change, to challenge things and stand out, stand firm to what you believe in. Because once you have a vision, push for it. It's going to be uncomfortable at first, but push through so that at the end, persons who you are impacting or the future generations would be able to benefit. If we look back at how many things he's implemented and how many doors he's opened for PAN and for even individuals within the AFCOM, I would say that those are things that I really do or did admire of Mr. Arnold, and I try to incorporate those things in my style as a manager.
And Amelia, as we just continue the conversation, Renison, before we come to you, can you share what's planned for his funeral and his contributions to the orchestra in general, or what the orchestra is going to be doing?
Okay, so on Monday evening, we would be hosting an evening of tributes and a memorial at the Pan Theatre. So we already have things in place for that. We're inviting other bands to come in. Some persons have already reached out to us who would be willing to pay tributes, whether it be musical or just to say some words. So we're preparing for that on Monday. And on Tuesday, the funeral is going to be held in Scarborough. We are working to have a minor procession uh, on the way to the church, just about a 10 minutes or so off. We're going to assemble at a point and we're going to have the body taken to the church with a small procession because we believe it is necessary that we celebrate him in that way. And we're asking persons on the night on Monday to come out, wear white. You can bring candles. We've been lighting candles almost every night at the Pan Theatre. And we're asking persons to come out on Monday, especially you're free to pass by any night and support us in that regard. But Monday night would be the night of tributes, the memorial being held at the Pan Theatre, and then the funeral service on Tuesday at 2 p.m. at the Scarborough RC Church.
Thank you so much for that. And of course, this evening at 7 p.m. at the Queen's Park Savannah, there is going to be a tribute from PanTrinbago, of course, to the life and legacy of Mr. Arnold. Are there any special considerations for the tribute that you need to share with us? There you go. You see on the screen there. This is being done in Trinidad, Thursday, the 18th of May. So for those of you who are interested, it's happening this evening and you will be able to attend and pay tribute to his legacy. Renison, coming back to you for a quick moment. We didn't get to pick your brain as to perhaps one leadership quality that you noticed in Mr. Arnold that will have assisted in the continued evolution of our culture.
Yes. Let me say the theme visionary is applicable to him because as he led Trinidad, I led Tobago. We happened to do it at the same time. We were coexisting. The point here is Patrick Arnold did not only see Steel Band as an organization or PanTrinbago as an organization. He ventured into the realm of making it an institution, which is different. An institution is an entity that encapsulates the whole man, you know, from education, religion, culture, the art, you're talking about a social, the whole way of life. Because Patrick Arnold saw Steel Band as an institution worthy of the fact that he was lobbying very strongly to move it from under culture to put it under the Ministry of Trade and Industry. That was his vision. That's the sort of mindset we had. And working with a man like that, who would not just rest on panorama, liberalization, the players and stuff, money for Panman. No, he wanted to make it an institution, a place where academics could be achieved, a place where industry, we could sell to the world, artisans, as well as the instrument. So when I think Patrick Arnold, I think big. That's he always tell me. For sure, we have to think this thing big. We have to make it more than just the mundane organization where we elect officers, run for a period. No, we got to get past that. The other thing that he said to me, or that we were working on, was making Pan a magnet. Because in his view, and in my view, I subscribe to it, Pan by itself could not take this nation where we wanted it. Pan must be married. Pan must be courted by other cultural art forms so as to move this nation forward. This is why he mounted a series of concerts with Desperados and Sparrow, Billy Ocean and Ebony in England, Stalin and Skiffle Bunch in South, and Shadow and All Stars in the North. You follow what I'm saying? So yes. This was his method of using the Steel Band as a symbol, as a medium to really drive the national cultural conversation in the world space.
Thank you so much for that, Renison. I'm so sorry that we need to cut because, okay, we do have a few more moments. Go ahead, Renison.
Yes, so I'm just saying that let's see him as a visionary, that cultural visionary. Let's see him as the one who saw schools in Pan, and not really Pan in schools, If you get the catch, schools in PAN, what other opportunities will the PAN portend, or can the PAN portend? What other opportunities are there in the steel band? Is it panorama? Making PAN? No. PAN is a colossal collection or a driver of that cultural conversation that Trinidad and Tobago needs to make on the world stage. Nothing else will, because here it is, oil is expendable. Huh? What again we have is all other resources are expendable. PAN is God's gift. Inexpendable. We have the resource. So my final word to you is, let's make that somber appeal, an appeal to the powers that be, make PAN, that's Patrick's vision, to make PAN the mainstay of this economy. I want the rest there.
We can hear your passion. Renison, thank you so much. And Amelia, thank you so much for joining us this morning on the Now Morning Show. We look forward to seeing you back with us again soon.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Stay tuned. There's more coming up right after this break.